And today we have, which I think I can say, an iconic drag performer, comedian, fire eater, multi-talented. We are joined today with Carissa Hendrix. Hello, how are you doing?
I'm so well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I feel honored that I'd be able to interview you today, ahead of your up and coming UK tour. Um, so let's kick it off, shall we? So you're like a 15-time award-winning entertainer. You have credits such as like the Guinness World Records, Ripley's Believe It or Not. But take us right back because you're very multi-talented. Like, how did it begin?
I think for me, my relationship with performing is similar to the average person's relationship with their first fast food job. I needed money. I had done some theater training that summer. I had learned to eat fire and walk on stilts, and I managed to squeak in as like a young person when I was 16 and get a couple of gigs. And that 16 is also when I got kicked out of the house. So I really needed that money. And so for me, it was just financial survival. I was also doing stock service in the morning and working at a juice bar after school. And then on the weekends, I was doing shows. And for me, those all felt the same. One didn't have any more prestigious qualities or ambition. They were all just make money, don't die. And the great thing about that introduction entertainment is that it is entirely about the audience because there was no ego in it for me. I never dreamed of being like very successful or famous or anything. It was entirely just like, what is the product that the audience wants in order to feel like they got a good experience? And I think because of that angle, and because of my work ethic around it, I just got booked more and more and more. I started teaching on the side. I went to art school. And this transition happened where I realized I couldn't keep teaching when I was like 18, 19, 20, and still maintain the career I was maintaining as an artist, as a performer. And so I left teaching to become a full-time performer. And at the exact same time, I was also putting myself through art school because I wanted to be an art teacher specifically. And that really changed the way I perceived performing. Because at first, the first year of art school, I really thought of like, I'm an illustrator and I also perform, which is just like, it's the same as being a lawyer. It's the same as, building widgets. But then the skills I learned as a visual artist and the skills of communication and the things that you're infused in art school about, oh, and communication is important, communication is like something that challenges the status quo and it's about turning the mirror back on society. And I was like, well, I probably could do that in the show, thinking I had invented that as a concept, by the way. Because every idea I've ever had, I'm like, I'm the first person who's ever had this idea. And then as soon as I look into it, I'm like, oh, I'm the last person to ever have this idea. And so I think that was the shift. And it's that I think has contributed so much to what I do because I both still come at it as like, this is a job. This is a job like any other job. This is a service job. I'm a I'm a therapist, I'm a coffee shop worker, I'm a barista. I'm those things. Like it doesn't feel different to me than those jobs. It feels like it's a service job. But also I bring to it the sensibility left over from art school. And like now it's been what, 20, oh boy, I don't want to do the math on this, 21 years of performing. And
Wow.
it feels much less now that I'm doing it just to not go hungry.
Yeah. So like, what was the moment you realized, like it isn't just a hobby, it's like what you wanted to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a very clear moment. I remember I was working at Boys and Girls Club in Canada, which is like a youth program after school youth program, mostly for at-risk youth. And I really think I got that job in a way to like heal my own past of like, to provide the support that I really wish I had as a 16-year-old to, I was very openly queer. I was very, at the time I didn't have the word non-binary, but like there was a something about me that like the queer kids would gravitate towards. And I loved that I could be that for them. And the program offered me, at the time I was doing that part-time and then performing part-time. And with those two incomes, I could really like be okay. And they offered me a full-time job. And I realized two things. One, if I had given up my entertainment income and just gone full time with Boys and Girls Club, it was going to be quite a step down lifestyle wise. And secondly, I couldn't imagine not being on stage. And the moment that both those things hit me, because I was like, when they offered me a full-time job, I was like, yes. And then my first, like, I love it here. I love my kids. I love teaching. I love being this, solid center for these people. She said, great, we're so excited you're going to come on board. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I burst out into tears. And I just all at once I realized, like, oh, I have to imagine myself 5 years from now, having not
Yeah.
stepped on stage, having not been able to use this work to communicate, having not, like to me, the teaching and the performing were like two sides of the same coin. They were providing the same support, they were the same service. And I just quit. And so that poor woman, because she had like, they had moved the budget around to offer me this full-time job. She was being so supportive. She was such a great mentor. And now she offers this young kid a full-time job and they just turn around and quit. And then I went performing full time, and it was like that was sort of the moment that I went, oh, this is not working at a coffee shop. This is what I'm meant to do. And I was just lucky enough to stumble into it. So I didn't notice because for me it was easy. And when I think when something is easy, sometimes that gives you a false understanding of it, right? Because if something is easy, then it feels like maybe it doesn't have the same kind of value as something that you have to struggle to do. But it
Yeah.
was easy because it was correct.
So the next question is, people know you very well as Lucy Darling. It's like, how did Lucy first come into existence? Because you can correct me if I'm wrong, I've done my research. Lucy was your 22nd character. You've had many
Mhm.
characters. How, like, did Lucy come into existence, and like why did you like stuck with Lucy?
So the first reason I started doing character work, there was no nobility in it. There was no like desire to make art. I had just acquired a lot of different skills. I think, I'm neurodivergent. I think a lot of us in the community tend to like be interested in different things, and entertainment is such a great way to do that because like I could walk on stilts and I could eat fire and I had like a dance troupe that we went out and did like showgirl acts, and I just did all this stuff. And I had a bubble show that I was really proud of that was selling really well as a kids entertainment. And I was also doing a lot of circus workshops for kids. And I was doing this like showgirl act and these and like sometimes going to burlesque clubs to try out material. And I didn't feel comfortable having those be on the same website. I didn't think other people would feel comfortable with that. So I created separate characters, mostly as like a marketing tactic to have different brands. And then I loved it. I just I loved the experience of stepping into a different attitude or a different voice, or in many cases, a different body, and seeing how it changed the material and it changed the way I was perceived. And it informed a lot about who I was. And so the first 10 characters were really there to be commercially successful. But again, going to art school really colored my relationship with performing because yes, I did run a arguably very successful like corporate entertainment firm in Western Canada. We did very well. We sold to oil and gas. We did whatever, kids things and kids parties on the weekends. I wasn't like making high art. I wasn't making theater, but I would always try to infuse the corporate work we did with theater. And then as I got more financially stable and things got easier, the characters became less commercially viable and became more about communication. And then the game became to sell these corporate clients art and have them not notice. And Lucy was a character that I had assumed would be the least commercially successful because she's a little acerbic, she's a little mean. And I've been watching a lot of these like old-timey screwball comedies, Bring Up Baby, I love Mae West, I love Zsa Zsa Gabor, Eartha Kitt, these women. And I had for a long time really thought like how fun would it be to embody that energy and how fun would it be to like bring that to people in a new context because, those characters arguably fall into a stereotype that is like the madame, right? The madam, that character, the grande dame, in traditional theater is there to hold creatively and comfortably and comedically hold the status quo. She is the one that goes, "Oh, sex out of marriage. How could you?" And so I thought, how powerful would it be to subvert that and be that person, but with very progressive values, so that the status quo I'm holding is a modern status quo. I am, with my tone and my effortlessness, communicating that this is what is expected of society. So I loved that as an artist going in. I had all these highfalutin ideas, but I knew no one was going to buy that, or I assumed no one was going to buy that. And then December of that year, uh, I found out Zsa Zsa Gabor had just died. And it really hit me. And I didn't know her. We weren't friends, and I don't know why it just kicked me in the butt. And the more I thought about it, I really was sat there with it and was like, why was this one so upsetting? Celebrities die all the time. And we as a culture are like, oh, we've lost a thing. But this was different. This was like a thing I walked around with for weeks. And then I realized, oh, she's the last one. That's it. Like that kind of energy is officially gone from the world, or at least it felt that way. And it was like such a call to action to go, okay, well, if it doesn't live inside me, at this point, it doesn't live anywhere. And I was like, well, it doesn't matter now, I guess, what it costs or like in time or money to make this happen, because this feels like such a call to action. And so I hired an accent coach and I, booked this 1 hour show in Australia where I didn't know anybody because I assumed if the show was terrible, no one would find out. None of my friends would find out because it'd be in the middle of nowhere. And the first show I did as Lucy was basically an hour and 10 minutes. Like that was how I started. I didn't like work up to it. I just showed up and it was like being in a fugue state. It was so different than everything else I'd ever done. And it was so immediately well received. Like it got bigger laughs than it ever got. It was more comfortable than anything I'd ever done. And it was so confronting because it made me realize like, oh, this was the one thing I created for me. Like this I created with a whole different goal. And I think that they can tell that this is the thing I wanted to do, that I'm not placating them. Like I am showing up authentically as the thing I most want to explore. And it just took off. And I mean, yes, in fact, the last year and a half have been obviously transformative with all the viral videos and stuff like that. But even before that, like the first Lucy show sold out in Australia. The show sold out in Winnipeg. It got 5-star reviews. I immediately got booked to the Magic Castle. I won Stage Mission of the Year 2 consecutive years. Like it's been this, like since the first show, it feels like it's been just on this steady climb. And it's so validating to make art that people resonate with and not feel like I'm compromising on anything. It's very cool.
Yeah, like finding out about you gave me really LGBTQ plus vibes. So to actually find out you actually are, I'm like, like what you said to resonate with you, it's
hmm
like you get what I mean. You gave me like the LGBTQ plus vibes, and I think that's what I love about you. And the one thing I did want to say as well to you, like that knowing you're a drag queen, because stereotypically drag queens, is a male being a female. It's nice to see drag out of that stereotypical. Do you get what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I think as soon as I found that out as well, that you're not the stereotypical drag queen, I just love that even more. Like, you push the boundaries even more of what a stereotypical drag queen is, and I just loved that. Like seeing you for the first time on Instagram last year. Yeah, you really gave me the vibes, and yeah, that's just what I love about you.
Oh, that's so kind. It's so fun because to me that doesn't feel unusual because like, Sweet Pickles and like Misbehave, like I grew up on this doing street performing and like in the variety culture and I've met so many either female presenting drag queens or non-binary drag queens that to me it was like I'm just doing what the thing, right? And like also the drag culture where I grew up in Calgary is very like gender fluid crazy. And I was very welcomed into like the traditional drag community in Calgary. And I didn't know that was unusual until I stepped out of it. And kind of what I love that I get to do that I didn't even know was part of my job is like I love the way Neil deGrasse Tyson makes science so accessible, and is like he's so cool and he's the one, he's people's entry point into things. And I feel inspired by that, and I feel like that's kind of what I'm trying to do is be like I am a lot of people's first drag queen because they don't necessarily know it's drag, but my drag makes more traditional drag more palatable. My queerness makes other queerness more palatable. My show, my weird show, is like a lot of people's entry point into the community. And we end up with a lot of people in our show who, the community is very safe, it's very established, it's very queer, it's very neurodivergent. But we also get every once in a while, we get like a handful of people who are not quite in the community. And it's wonderful to see them show up, realize they're outnumbered, realize these are human beings deserving of care and support who are funny. And like, I see it change their mind. I see it make them question what they assumed queerness was up until now. And it's very fun. It's just like, and I love taking on that role. And I've often felt like a little bad about the fact that like I am quite passing. You're like I could get LGBT. I think people in the community can kind of pick it up, but if you're straight, I'm passing. Like nobody assumes necessarily that I'm queer. But I kind of think that even though that was like a little shameful to me in years past, because as a non-binary person, often you feel like you have a responsibility to like perform that aspect of yourself. And I never wanted to. Like, I'm the kind of non-binary where like everything's a costume. That's part of why I love doing drag. In my real life, clothes are just like so I don't get arrested. Like, I don't have a, I'm like really trying to express myself. I'm just trying to move my body through the world. Like, I don't have that relationship with clothes, but I do recognize it is a signaling device. And so I've often felt like weirdly guilty about that. But now recognizing, oh, that's put me in this cool role where I am like a sleeper agent of the queer community, where people come in, they fall in love with the act, and then they're like, wait a second. We had a guy show up for the talk back before the show, and the question he asked is, why is it, I can't quite remember the question, but my memory, and I think I am getting this wrong, but it's something along the lines of he was like, why is it that people think Lucy's gay when she's straight? And I went, because she's gay. And he went, oh, okay. And then I went, but I could see how you would see that. I can see how people tend to see what they want in her. And that's part of what's special about it is that, if that's what you interpret it as, if that makes you enjoy the show more, that's great. But that is not my intention as an artist. But the intention of the artist is not as interesting as the interpretation from the audience. And the whole time he's just like, and it was so fun because the whole rest of the room pulled a, like they just looked over him on the side like, "Sir, sir." But it was very cool because like he'd been a little bit hard to work with before that, and I feel like that settled him in like, "Oh no, friend, you're wrong. You like a thing
Yeah.
that's gay." And what does that say about you?
And I find it amazing as well because in this climate, a lot of trans non-binary people get a lot of hate unnecessarily. But I feel like going back to your work, it just shows you're a normal human being. Like a lot of people, do you get what I mean? It's just like
Yeah.
it just shows you work. Do you get what I mean? You just work as
Yeah.
every other normal human being, and that's what I love even more when I found out that you were part of the community. It just shows like us LGBTQ plus people just want to live. We just want to, just work and just live a normal life like everyone else. So it's
Yeah.
that's why I love your work as well. It's just, this shows, yeah, we're just trying to live a normal life just like everyone else. So I really do appreciate you, the work you do.
Thank you. That's so sweet, Kai.
My producer did want to ask during a Lucy Darling show, is it gin or champagne? What's the best to drink?
Ooh, oh, it depends on the show. So it's gin in the Mark and the TJ show, and it's definitely champagne in the Sarah Hester Ross show. I really am trying to, this is like secret inside information, but the plan as the shows progress is that each show kind of has a booze as a theme, but it's like secret. So like Sarah Hester Ross, that show has like a subtle undertone of like champagne, even in the quality of the show. Like the show is bubblier, the show is like more celebratory. The other shows, I love gin because gin is like classy and effortless and it's clear. So like part of what I like about gin is that it could be water, you don't know. But this new show I'm working on, I think I'm trying to build it around whiskey. This idea of like this smokiness, this sultriness. And even though those things, those qualities are arbitrary, I do love the idea of like using the qualities of these liquors as inspiration for qualities in the show.
Yeah, and just go back to Lucy Darling. You mentioned earlier, like you found yourself through Lucy Darling. Am I right in saying, because a lot of people who do drag, I've got friends who are in drag, they say it's kind of like an escapism. They found their self. Do you get what I mean? Is that for
Hmm.
you? Am I right in saying, like, I don't, yeah,
Kind of. So I feel like every character I've ever done has taught me something about myself. And in a way, after the beginning, like when you create something, you're just like, I'm excited and I don't know why. And then, a year in, you go, huh, I think I was trying to explain. And so for me, it isn't as much escapism, even though I can like fall into the character. And there are days when like I'm tired, but Lucy's not. And there
yeah.
definitely is escapism in that, or like I'm sad, but Lucy never is. I remember the first time we did a show with an audience of 3,000 people, and I'm standing backstage and I can hear them screaming, and I'm like overwhelmed with gratitude. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm gonna walk out on the stage and cry. I'm gonna cry in front of all of these people and like break character. And the second the curtains opened, Lucy was like, "Of course." Like and it was such an instant like I was grateful. Lucy was like this is what I deserve. This is the only thing that makes sense. And that was very escapist. Like that's very protective. But for me, I don't necessarily participate in character work as and drag as like a form of escape. For me, it's about like learning something about like I can take that information back to me. I think I can in my real life be quite sassy. I can be a little judgmental, which is a thing I'm working on. And I've always felt very ashamed of those qualities. But being able to turn them into like playful entertainment in a way that's safe with Lucy has taught me a lot about what kinds of judgment are actually like lovely, like how to do that in a way that is, genuine and safe and sweet. And like, I don't think, like when I'm teasing people in the audience, I don't think they ever feel attacked, right? And that's kind of the game of it is like, can I say it in a way where you're learning something about Lucy's point of view, but it in no way says that you like Lucy's point of view is stupid and crazy. So of course you don't feel bad about the way you're dressed or the way because she just doesn't, she's just a crazy person. And like I think that's how we should feel about everybody's judgment. And well, I did this character called Dee Dee, which was my kids show character. And she was like really excited to be here and like really high voice, excited about things. And I think now you see like young people feel like everything is cringe, like they're not allowed to love things because it's embarrassing. And I had a little bit of that, but being Dee Dee and learning the way people interacted with me when I love things unapologetically and I love them more than you, and I love things that are normal people think are bad and how easy it was to take people like in the show. It's a kid show, right? So I did a thing about Brussels sprouts and like Dee Dee loves Brussels sprouts and the kids are like, no. And it's such a fun dynamic. And yes, it is for kids, but that like I can bring that back into my actual life and go, oh, I'm allowed to like whatever I like. And the only time liking what I like seems weird is when I'm being false about it. Either when I'm like pretending I like it less than I do, or I'm pretending to like things I don't like. Sincerity is the antidote to cringe.
Yeah. So of course, your Simply Darling tours coming to the UK, like Birmingham, Manchester, Glasgow, Edinburgh, and London. You even had to add like an extra date to London. It was that popular. For people who may not know you that well, what can people expect from the Simply Darling tour?
This is such a good question. I think people, because they're so used to the online stuff, they expect me to ask people what they do and then answer some questions. And I love that. Like that is what I want you to expect. That is not the show. The show has some magic in it, some singing in it. It is like it is like a true vaudeville variety show for a modern audience. But I don't want you to come expecting that. I want you to come expecting nothing because I think that's the best version of the show. When I talk to people after the show and they say like, "Oh, I was just expecting to be all crowd work." They never say that as a way, like in that they're disappointed. And so it's such a hard show to sell because it's like if you like what's online, you'll like the show. But the show is not what's online. That part that we post, the best way to explain it is the beginning of the show, the crowd work part of the show. That has a purpose. I am casting the show out of the audience. And that is all I will say.
Okay, yeah. So I've got a couple more questions. Being in the LGBTQ plus community as a performer, what advice would you give people who you know, wants to perform or get into creative stuff like you've been doing and just starting out now? What advice would you give them?
Oh, such a good question. I mean, the problem with this question is that I have like hours of advice. We're working on running a theater program in the America this summer. But I think if I could give them one thing, like one take home, it's that performing is in fact a service. It is a gift. And if you are getting into it because you think it is the path to fame or fortune or access to sex or whatever, you will not create good work because you have to. This is, first of all, that is the hardest way to achieve those goals. There are easier ways to achieve those goals. If that's what you want, do something else. But if you come here and you fall in love with the work, like if you love the part where you get to be on stage and you make them laugh and you provide them with joy and you give them context and, you know, maybe as a drag queen, I don't necessarily feel the escapism, but the show itself is such incredible escapism. Whether or not I experience that, I feel like everybody in the audience feels that way. And that's on purpose. In this room, you get to exist in a culture for even just an hour and a half that totally loves you and trusts you and believes that you belong here. And you are so safe and loved. And everything I do and say and everything that everybody does and says around you reminds you of that. And you can like take that energy into the world. That's the gift. But if I was there to extract value from them, to be like, how much can I get in ticket sales? And like I want the applause and I want and like that makes me feel good. I could never have gotten to where I am because that's not what the job is. Like ultimately, the job is a service job. You're in the service industry. You need to love serving people.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. It's kind of like a personal question as well because I'm doing this thing in May where I've never done comedy before. They train you for like 12 weeks. You raise money for charity and then you perform in front of people. So everyone who's performing has to give sell tickets to their friends and family. I've never done comedy in my life. I love comedy, but yeah, I've never done it in my life. So that's how like that question inspired me. And thank you for that piece of information. And like for me, it's not like, as you say, it's not for fame. It's just more of a go out my comfort zone. I would,
Hmm.
I feel like I would never would have done it. Yeah, so I'm just doing it to go out my comfort zone. The way I think of it, if it goes bad, at least I've raised money for charity.
I
um,
think the best thing, like for a new performer like yourself, to remember is that you work like when you're on stage, everyone in that room has the same goal for you to do a good job. They will they will do everything they can to have this. They want it to be a good experience for them too. So like they're not against you. They will give you the benefit of the doubt. They will laugh at stuff that's not that funny. Like they're there to help you. And I think when you realize like, oh, this is a group project, we're all working towards the same goal, and you stop thinking of them as like the audience or the set or separate from you. Like, I mean, I think that's very easy to say for my show because my show, the line between audience and show is very thin. But I think that's because I recognize that it is inherently thin. Like the audience is part of the show. So when you go there, just remember like they're on your side. they're always, always on your side, even when it feels like they're not. Like when it feels like they're not, it's because they can't help but be like, "Oh, this isn't like we want it
Yeah.
better. We want it good. We want it different." And so like that energy is not them hating you, it's them wanting more for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that as well because like there's a comedy club near me and they do a lot of like, this material might not be good or bad, but we're here to test it out. So that is good to know. If people don't laugh, they don't mean it in a nasty way, but they like feedback basically. They just say you could do this a bit different and it would yeah. So yeah,
Yeah, it's
thank you for
just
the
information.
feedback.
Yeah, I mean that's part of what I love
Yeah.
about performing is that like nobody laughs truly laughs politely. Like it is comedy is such a democracy. If they laugh, that's because they meant it. And I think like
Yeah.
also as like a neurospicy person, I like when people don't do things politely, right? Like I want to
Yeah.
know what's going on. And there is such clarity on stage. Like even claps can be polite, and sometimes a standing ovation can be polite because you've like manipulated them into it, but no one laughs because it's the polite thing to do, not a real laugh.
Yeah. Right. Thank you for the interview.
Of course, this is so fun. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.